Hey guys, welcome to my channel and welcome back if you already subscribed. I really hope you like this, and if you do, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And with that, let's get on to the video. Midoriya Izuku. He'd be careful of touching you, not wanting to freak you out. He knows how that's worked out for him when he used to have panic attacks himself. Deep breaths, okay? 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, out. You're doing great, love. He'd stay a fair distance away until you calmly, hoping that it calms you down. He'd be very worried about you and what caused you to have those in the first place. He wouldn't ask too many questions until he was sure you were calm, and even then, he won't try forcing anything out of you. He'd hug you close and give you a kiss on the cheek, telling you that he'd never make fun of you for having panic attacks, and that he's always there for you to help you calm down if it gets really bad. He'd offer to take you to a therapist himself. He's just really worried about your well-being because it's the most important thing for him. He'd be careful of your triggers. Hell, he'd probably write them down in his notebook and memorize them all. If it's loud noises or sudden movements, then he'll avoid doing either in front of you. Probably yells at Bakugo too, until he stops that. Todoroki Shouto. Poor baby had too many panic attacks, and he's read a lot about dealing with them, so he has experience. He'd be successful at calming you down, but he'd be very worried about you. He'd ask about your triggers, and will make sure Ida knows them, so he could tell everyone else to avoid doing them in front of you. He doesn't want you to panic again, or get worse. Would suggest you go to a therapist if you're comfortable with that, and is ready to listen to you talk about whatever it is that's bothering you or making you panic. Very patient with you, really. He's so gentle and patient. It's amazing. He'd try to give you advice and tell you how to deal with things. If there's any way that he could help you, then you bet he's going to do it, no matter what it is or how it affects him. He's too good to be true. Bakugou Katsuki. He'd be able to manage it. He's heard about panic attacks before, and he'd try to get you to calm down. Once you do, he'd soften his tone and move slowly so it doesn't startle you. He'd wait until you've calmed down to ask about your triggers calmly. If things get bad, then you're going to a therapist. He's not going to let you neglect yourself. If you're just scared, then he'd go with you. But he just wants to see you get better. Once he sees how bad your panic attacks are, he starts feeling guilty about something. When you try to ask him, he said it wasn't important, but it obviously was. From how he's beating himself up over it, and you tried to soothe him. It took a long time until the guilt started to go away. He wouldn't raise his voice at you or around you He'd try really hard to act better when you're around, and he starts calming down in general. But if someone dares to even try to scare you in front of him, then he's going to throw hands. I mean it. If you have nightmares, then he's gonna help you sleep, and if it comes to it, he moves your foot in to his dorm room, and you two sleep in the same room. He does that if he tells anyone. Shigaraki Tomura would accidentally make it worse at first by yelling at you. Then he'd realize what he'd done wrong. He'd panic really. He doesn't know what's wrong with you, and it worries him. He'd try to hug you, but when you flinched away, it only worried him more. In the end, he'd settled on picking you up and taking you back home to the league. And by the time you two were back, you had already passed out in his arms. In the end, Mr. Compress would have to explain what it is that went wrong, and Tomura would eventually understand. He'd be very troubled since you couldn't get a doctor, and he really didn't want you to get worse. He'd be awfully gentle with you later on, and make sure you're feeling alright every day. He tries his best to be affectionate, and when he has to leave, he makes sure that you at least have someone around you to stay with, just in case. It's not that he thinks you're weak, he just didn't want you to get scared and be all alone. And also, if that happened frequently, he's sure the heroes would take advantage of your weakened state and take you to jail. He couldn't handle that. He couldn't lose you. He wanted to make sure you were safe, and if anyone even thinks about hurting you, they're not getting away with that. He's very soft and clueless. He just loves you too much and doesn't want you to be scared or in pain. So, appreciate his love.
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I hope you enjoyed listening to this as much as I did making it. Anyway, goodbye.